SAA and the South African National Defence Force. Guy Leitch, the editor of SA Flyer magazine. Guy, good afternoon to you again. What's happening between these two entities?
It's a fascinating little breaking piece of news in that the Chief of the Air Force in his retirement speech yesterday, at least in the notes to it, said that SAA was going to pass on 3 of its obsolete A340-4-engined airliners to the Air Force. That's an extraordinary story because it raises 110 questions about whether the pricing is fair, whether any other bids were required, and what on earth the Air Force would be doing with such incredibly large aircraft. There are any number of reasons as to why the Air Force could attempt to justify such big aircraft, including the long-held need to replace the very aging Hercules C-130s with transport to move South African troops into the hot zones in Africa where they have an agreement to be deployed. And the Air Force has in fact been contracting or chartering aircraft to do that. There is a case for it, but certainly there are a million questions raised as to whether a fair price has been used or whether the South African Airways is simply borrowing money from the Defence Force budget, which is already extremely tightly constrained.
I mean, we are aware that our National Defence Force has complained many times that it actually doesn't have lift capacity to move soldiers around if it needs to. It's had to, if I remember correctly, it's had to charter planes in the past.
Indeed, that is exactly the problem. There are other interesting little wrinkles to the story as well. One of the first things that came to my mind was I wonder whether they're going to try and convert one to VIP configuration, because we well know that President Jacob Zuma was trying to get himself a bigger, more prestigious VIP transport than the Boeing 737 that we're currently using. And he was trying to wrangle a Boeing 777. And of course, we know that the Eswati King has got an Airbus A340. So we thought immediately, well, they're trying to get a VIP transport out of SAA. But as I mentioned, there's a case to be made for SAA using these aircraft. Look, they might not be ideal to get in some of the more remote, what we would call austere airstrips, but nonetheless, an aircraft like this could still get into 90% of the places in Africa that the South African Defence Force needs to deploy troops. There is a case, the key point though, is that the aircraft may be acquired or should be acquired at absolutely knockdown value. They're pretty much worthless. In fact, the ones that have been returned are being scrapped. However, the operating costs are absolutely enormous, and that is why these aircraft have become so obsolete. Very few aircraft still use 4 engines these days, and of course these are 20-year-old planes that have been worked hard, so the maintenance requirement is huge.
Guy Leitch, thanks very much indeed.